Hello, everyone. This is Leon Cruz for the Intense Apex Alpha Male podcast and video. And today is Sunday, February the 19th, 2017. And today we're going to be talking to our beloved brother in Christ, Michael Hur, on what is government or what are the governments. Now, some time ago I put out a video as an introduction to what we're going to be discussing today. But I went into what I plan to be discussing with Michael Hur in a little bit detail. So that video in and of itself is an actual podcast which discusses governments based on King Nebuchadnezzar's dream and what anarchy is. I also spoke about Brian from High Impact Flicks and his philosophy on anarchy. So we're going to be discussing that in a little bit in-depth discussion with Michael Hur. So please stay tuned.
Oh, hey Leon, how's it going?
Hey brother, how's it going?
I'm very good, very good. How are you?
Okay, good. We haven't spoken in a while, and I'm excited to get this topic underway. I noticed you've been pumping out a lot of your videos, a lot of great topics you've been covering. Fantastic stuff, I have to say.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a very, very busy couple months, yeah.
Yeah, it's like every day you're pumping out stuff, and it's amazing because all of this stuff that you're teaching us is all from research and everything that's in your brain. Isn't it amazing? One day you look back and you look at everything you have contributed to the things of God, and all that came out of your mind. That's fascinating.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, when I look at your books, I always tell my wife, you see, this is stuff that's in Michael's brain. He's actually putting it on paper. So basically, we were buying a piece of Michael's knowledge.
It's a piece of a lot of knowledge, I would say. But that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. You're really going full force. And I have to say, a lot of your topics are in keeping with a lot of interesting things that Hollywood is pushing out as well. Difference is that you're covering actual, true information, where Hollywood uses that information and tries to fantasize it so that it could seem like it's not real.
Yeah, they're entertainment. You know, they're at the end of the day, they're entertainment. So they're there to spread a propaganda, and they're there to promote a product, and they're there to sell a product. So naturally, they're not going to tell you the reality, you know, and tell you what other research revealed about them. They're going to just tell you the biased information that supports them. Well,
it's like what we discussed a while ago about Operation Paperclip. One of your recent videos on the bell, the Nazi bell. You briefly touched upon that, and that's a very real, unclassified document now. And as we discussed a while ago, and a couple of podcasts ago, that the Captain America movie used that very undisclosed document to create their story.
I forgot about that. I used the information that I had on the bell based on two events. One was, like you just said, one was released in Operation Paperclip, and the other event was documented in Pennsylvania, in Pittsburgh in '65, which connected to the document that was released regarding Paperclip, which was classified for a long time. It became unclassified in 1997. And the 97 document verified the testimonies that went down in 65, and that's what I based my video on.
Oh, amazing. And you know something, brother? You noticed most documents that are titled classified, they usually wait between 50 to about 70 years to unclassify them.
Yeah, because that's when most of the parties may be dead or too old, or they'll just be really out of the loop. And that's a lot of power has been shifted over, so that, you know, other things can't fall down on them. And that's why they do that. You know, it's because by then so many people are already passed on, or so many people are pretty much out of the loop. That they feel safer that way, doing it that way.
Yeah, but the funny thing about that is that the next generations that are pushing forward that global agenda, which is inevitable, as we learned in the book of Revelations, that must come to pass, by them declassifying these things, we begin to see a pattern of behavior that the elites basically partake in.
Yeah, they basically continue to brainwash and mind control the next generation.
Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting because in your questions video, a question came up about the millennials, which is it's quite fascinating because I work with a lot of millennials, and that is actually the generation we see right now that, it's like a double-edged sword. We're living at a time where information has increased, like Jesus prophesied. But at the same time, we're seeing a generation, which is right now Generation Y and Z, who are the millennials and the techies. Techies are still in school. They'll be graduating within the next year or so. But the millennials are basically in their early 20s, up to about 30 years of age, and they're in the workforce right now. And they're already conditioned to believe a certain paradigm, even though the truth is already out there. Knowledge has increased. Isn't that interesting?
Well, I think it's because they've been very spoiled and conditioned to think a certain way, and their education is very dumbed down. They didn't learn probably a lot of things we learned. Even our education wasn't all that great either. But theirs was worse, which is saying a lot.
Absolutely. That's where Common Core comes in.
Yeah, they didn't get a leg up in terms of knowledge. They just were told they were special, like you would tell your pet. I hate to say it like that, but they were really coddled. And they were really coddled, and they were self-indulgent, self-entitled culture. It was a me type mentality. So now when they get out in the workforce, they're learning reality, and at the same time, I just feel bad for them. I just think in many ways that stigma is on them because they lack a lot of knowledge.
Well, the interesting thing about it, and we can thank God for this, you're putting out a lot of fantastic content, which is actually teaching them, and I'm doing the best that I can to, do the talk to them and plant those seeds and expose them to an alternate paradigm, which is completely opposite to what they've been conditioned to believe. So we can only do our best as we can, but that's we're beginning to see a lot of them who are basically being like you said, spoiled. They don't want their feelings hurt, and you gotta agree with all their silliness and things like that.
Yeah, where they're finding out reality that that's not going to happen, and I think they're realizing it, and they're just taking resentment toward it. And it doesn't help when their politicians and their representatives want to continue acting like morons in the federal level and continue to subvert our laws and break laws, continue to spread disinformation with the media. It doesn't help when they have representatives like that, and they tend not to understand that. I think the millennials need a direct problem at home, because that's where their problems are. It's in the cities they live in, and it's in their own home. It's not in other people's houses.
Right. It's from their homes, and usually their parents are from our generation, the Generation Xers. So, and our parents are some of them are the baby boom generation who were the hippies of the '60s. So it's like it's a snowball effect. But again, the Lord has given us a choice, and the information is out there. First thing we have to do is get to know the knowledge of Jesus Christ first, which will give us discernment to read the right information and focus on what is correct. That's our yardstick by which we measure right and wrong, which is our relationship with Jesus Christ.
That's right.
Yeah. So for today's topic, brother, we're going to talk about what is the government, or what are governments? Now, I did a video several weeks ago touching upon that topic because I've been noticing some interesting things about the philosophical political realm. Like, for example, you have conservatives, you have liberals, you have libertarians, and you have anarchists. Now, I often say that I am a evangelical Christian conservative / libertarian, meaning that I do have a lot of common grounds with libertarians. I believe in freedom wholeheartedly. The freedom that I believe in is a freedom that God gives, a society based on Christian Judeo principles, which affords freedoms for everyone, unlike what the pagan heathens believe, where they believe a complete breakaway from God, they believe will give them freedom, when actuality it does not. Because usually what I see in terms of a pattern with these people is they always gravitate towards socialism, which gives birth to communism. Now, we've been seeing throughout the history of this country, and specifically within the past 30 years, a seesaw effect, where socialism from time to time is slowly injected into our system. And the sad part about seeing that is that once that's done, it's never reversed. So currently, right now in the United States, our country is at least, I would say, and this is a conservative estimate, 60% socialist. And I can come to that conclusion because basically government is in everything. Even the toilet that you buy has to be inspected by some type of government agency to determine how many flushes you're going to use to try to save water. Now, they tell you that to try to sound nicey, but it's a control game. Even with our cell phones, we see right now we're being spied upon. We also see, we see government in everything. When you buy a home, and let's say you want to put an extension to that home, it's a lot of red tape and hoops you got to go through. So we see a lot of government in our lives. So that's one of the things I want to talk to you about, and to understand. See, my belief is a double-edged sword. One of the guys I listen to is from High Impact Flicks, and he makes a lot of sense, and I'm pretty sure you would agree as well, in terms of why governments are corruptible. We both understand that governments are corruptible because mankind is a fallen creature. So with that being said, I agree with him that, we really don't need government powers over us. But yet, at the same time, governments were instituted by God, in a sense, where, we need a certain structural system. Those were at one time named kingdoms. See, so to fully understand that, we have to go to the book of Daniel. That's where I want you to give us information on that and how all of that came to this point. Because the dream Nebuchadnezzar had was basically of a beautiful statue depicting different ages of governments. And then God gave Daniel that same dream, but it wasn't a beautiful depiction. It was a depiction of corrupt, destructive beasts, which we already know that these men's governments are not beautiful things. So I want you to take it from there, brother.
Well, the book of Daniel was describing 4 time frames of what these particular governments would be in their description, basically. And described like one for Babylon, which was like the description of ancient Sumer. Then one was to represent Egypt, and then you had one for Greece, and then you had one for Rome, and then there was this one that was a mixture of a demonic kingdom that would resemble this Babylonian Rome, which is the empire that we're in now. And Daniel described that empire as existing between families of the north and the south realm. And what Daniel's talking about is the hemisphere of royal families. So families or royal families that took over and created governments later on started in the Middle East. You had one branch of them that were the northern section, and so they would branch out into Europe and places that you would know within the Western powers. And then you had one branch of them that were like the southern portion of them, and then they branched out, and then they would be the representatives of what you know as Eastern powers. And so Daniel really describes a government that basically using a lot of forecasting devices, is what it says in the book of Daniel, which is advanced technology, actually. But it's a specific technology. It's a technology that is a manipulation of the weather. And he talks about how they would initialize changes in time, and then they would try to even change or subvert the knowledge of God. So what we're seeing is that it's a description of a great deception, of a rewriting of history, a changing of perceptions, and also the use of manipulation of advanced technology. And you can notice that in the book of Daniel, it's all described as going on behind the scenes of these Western and Eastern confrontations between North and South. You know, he describes this inner turmoil of marriages and intrigues that are going on, and how these marriages and relationships tie in to this activity. So if you look behind the scenes, you notice all these prophecies as being fulfilled within Daniel.
So you would say that what Daniel is basically talking to us, describing to us, is a shadow type of government, correct?
He's describing both. He's describing the activities of the shadow government affecting the outer government.
Oh.
So yeah, that's right.
Okay. So, which leads us to the original intent. What my question to you is this, Michael. God instituted kingdoms. Right now it's called governments, which is what we have right now. Our country specifically was, you can consider it a great experiment, because it started out as a representative republic. And a representative republic, the masses elect individuals to represent them and enforce a constitutional law which is based on Christian Judeo principles, while at the same time giving us the freedoms to enjoy. But as time went on, it has decayed into what we have today, which is called a democracy. We are no longer a representative republic. We are a democracy. And as we see, democracies become totalitarian. And we've seen pockets of stories where the government has actually, persecuted certain people. Perfect example right now is laws that are preventing Christians from, basically running businesses and things like that. The government has, within the past 8 years, gone after certain Christian organizations like Chick-fil-A and this other organization that does the Yarn Barn, I think it's called. And also the Christian bakers that would not bake a cake for a homosexual wedding. They got put out of business. So this is when governments become corruptible and totalitarian. So in Daniel's dream, when he's interpreting this dream of the men's governments, one of the worst governments that we've seen that really persecuted individuals was the Nazi government back in the 30s. And every so often, again, what I'm trying to say is, my question to you is this. Do you agree with the anarchist view of no government and individuals looking out for one another?
No, because anarchists also fail to understand that by doing that, you would disorganize a lot of the gifts, structure, and intent that God had put here. God had created organization within the minds of mankind to organize their ability, and that comes out through the art forms. So God calls governments in the Bible authorities. He doesn't describe what kind of authorities they'll be or what kind of governments they'll have. It just describes as authorities, meaning persons chosen really to tell you what you can and cannot do. And they're really supposed to rule wisely. But the problem is mankind has sinned, and they believe in different gods and different venerated beliefs. And they incorporate a lot of false doctrine and false beliefs into the authority that God gave them. That's where the complexities come in. That's where the problem comes in.
Correct.
You see, you can't get rid of authorities. You can't just sit back and go, well, you know what, you guys do a horrible job. You suck at your job. I'm sick and tired of the wars. I'm sick and tired of this. Sick and tired of your restrictions. I'm just going to say, give me a nuclear bomb and let me get rid of all of you and let me dedicate myself to causing as much confusion as possible. that always results in the fall of a society. And if the anarchists want proof, or they want an understanding of what their actions will bring, look at what happened with the fall of Rome. Rome fell due to anarchists. That really, and your word actually comes from Rome. It comes from that time frame. And it was to describe a group of political upstarters and insurrectionalists whose ideas were really just that Rome failed, we don't need Rome, and we need to get rid of Rome. And they succeeded. And you know what happens when they did? People were eating each other, people were killing each other, people were raping each other, and the whole entire Europe fell into the Dark Ages. And what they're saying basically is we need to return back to that again. But you see, they don't understand that history. They don't understand that reality. They just want to preach something they don't know anything about. And if it actually happens, it's just going to be a repeat of that. And nobody wants that. And I promise you, we will fight and die to prevent it.
And you're absolutely correct on that count, Michael, because right after the fall of Rome came the Dark Ages, and people lived in tribes. And those tribes were constantly being invaded by totalitarian individuals that would rise up, give a speech that would get all the knuckleheads on his side. He'll create an army and take down the less or the weaker tribe. Because again, getting back to that, mankind is a fallen creature. So there is no utopia. Jesus promises utopia, absolutely, but that's in heaven, not here. So we have to, like you said, have some type of government. That's where the United States of America was supposed to be a godly society. When it was being formed, when the Pilgrims were on their way here, they were actually setting up a system based on biblical principles. Now, don't get me wrong, even though that's a noble thing, they unfortunately did not live up to that fully because, once again, mankind is a fallen creature. So mankind does not do a very good job in representing God that well. Am I correct?
No. They're imperfect. They're all imperfect, from the first to the last. You know, they will make mistakes. So that's why mankind is always told that you're going to live under trial, walk by faith, not by sight. All of those teachings in the Bible that Paul lays down, and all the teachings that are laid down by the prophets, a lot of it does equate to that. That I put rulers here, but they're going to do some pretty messed up things. I put other guys here, and they're going to do some messed up things too. And I put you here, and you're going to do some messed up things too. And it all fluctuates to the numbers of this trial and the way God structured it. So, no, God doesn't promise a perfect government, on earth anyway.
No, not on earth, no. In heaven, yes. Utopia is not for this earth. No.
Yeah, heaven's different, but on earth, no, there's not going to be a utopia. That's absolutely not even possible if people really think about it. You can't have one small group telling other people what to do. I mean, it's just not going to happen. It's not realistic, and I even think that the internal governments know that. They're just trying to play it out because they really don't know what else to do other than to just continue on this stuff because they're too afraid to tell people the reality.
Right. And also we see, again, that as time moves on, it's part of the globalists' agenda because eventually, as the Bible talks about in the book of Revelation, it's basically going to be a one-world system. So here and there, we begin to see throughout our history, while we're living now, we see certain things happening that's leading to that. Now, again, God does have mercy and slows it down, but it is inevitable. A lot of these things must come to pass. So I think that's one of the reasons why anarchists do not like governments, because they're corruptible. But like you pointed out, if you don't have some type of set system in place, then basically all hell will break loose, like in the Dark Ages.
That's right. We're here to use our minds in a logical and structured way. If a government is corrupt, we're here to expose that and work to uncorrupt it, and that starts by improving or dismantling or even cutting off the entity that is corrupting, But a lot of times people don't even want to do that. They'll see what it is and they don't want to face it, and then just turn around and say, let's just get rid of the government altogether. It's them blaming or misdirecting what the problem really is.
Right.
It's them going, okay, well, the government's corrupt, so let me make this problem worse, which is what they're trying to do, which is what it'll do. And so there's no sense in making a situation worse when it makes sense to try to make it better.
Correct, yeah. And the only way to try to make it better is, one, you have to know the Lord. But even those people who aren't Christians but are decent people who exercise prudence also understands that. Prudence is a type of worldly wisdom pointing towards overall good.
That's right, and prudence is a good thing, very good thing.
Yeah, because I've noticed there are people who aren't Christians like you and I, but are decent people in terms of, they're good people and they want good things to come to pass for everyone. Opportunity, they want a government that's not overbearing. They want to free up a lot of the markets, capitalism. Now, capitalism, despite its imperfections, it's fascinating to see how a lot of these people hate the capitalism, but yet you see them with iPhones, automobiles, computers, Wii U's, toys, all kinds of things, and these things are made out of capitalism. So if you're going to point to capitalism, you got to point to which one is the oppressive one. Capitalism has given us the quality of life we have today. With the advances in technology and medicine and even our employment. So again, it's not a perfect system. There can never be anything perfect here because, again, mankind is a fallen creature. So all we can do is basically seek towards a good behavior, moral understanding.
That's right. Yeah, it's just trying your best not to sin, basically.
Correct. And let me ask you this, Michael. Why do you suppose, especially now, we see so many people speaking damnation unto themselves? And I see that mostly in the Democrat Party. They love socialism, and yet they don't understand. Look at Venezuela, what's happening down there because of socialism. I don't understand that, They basically want power. They want to impoverish, but they don't see it as that. But that's basically what it leads to.
Yeah, I mean, if we talk about American socialism, it's really meant to continue on the same exploitation of others and the same control over the rackets of, real estate, taxes, businesses, government grants, and really exploitation of cultures. So the left doesn't know anything else but that. They all they know how to do is tell you what to do, or tax you, or use you. They're really good at using people. So
Yeah.
what they're really afraid of is the people that they're using gets it. They wake up and get it, and then stop responding to their buttons and their threats and their stupidity, and start working to improve themselves. And then that's usually like a right-wing kind of deal. But you got people on the right that are also afraid of that. They don't want to see that either because it can threaten them. So you got people on the right, and not all of them, because see, the thing with Trump is that the reason why the internal right doesn't like him is because he's working to fix that. He's working to thwart this mentality of using other people to benefit yourself. Remember Lincoln talked about a house divided, and Lincoln quoted that from the Bible, and he was really speaking about the Republican Party's intent, because they're like the richest, most powerful people in the world, this entity that exists within it, and we know it today like the Bush family and stuff, so they're not even really, hidden anymore.
Right.
But anyway, you got these corporations who really do control the left, using the Jews, using a lot of that, and then you got the Jews' investment toward that, who use that system as well, because the Jews, borrowed a lot of socialism, back when they were in Russia and Poland and things like that, and took those policies over here. So you get these two entities that control what goes on with the left and through the Democratic Party, and the only thing they're good at is just using people, suppressing people, and making people stupid. Now, the problem is, when you talk about left-wing supporters, is that the reason why they don't get any respect from us is because they're stupid enough to continue on listening to the same representatives who clearly are corrupt, who clearly don't care, and when they're talking bad about the right, they leave out the fact they work for them.
Yeah.
And it amazes me why anyone trusts the left anymore. It's clear that the right is in power. It's clear that the right is trying to clean house. It's clear that the left are a bunch of crybabies. It's clear that the only thing they got is what we gave them, or the right gave them, I should say.
Uh-huh.
And the only thing that they're doing with it is continuing on trying to control it, trying to hog it up, trying to hug on it, trying to kiss on it, by trying to tell you you're a big fat meanie and blah 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 blah. If you get my drift, and they do that toward us as a way to try to put us down, make us depressed, and make us stupid, so that we can continue, so we can just turn around and go, oh, it's fine, you can keep it, continue on exploiting 40, 50, 30 million people. We're okay with that. I mean, come on, man, it's amazing.
Yeah, you know, Michael, it's interesting because the liberal sect of our political system, and I often say this, they're the useful idiots for the globalists, and also the phony Republicans as well. They call them rhinos because technically a Republican is supposed to conserve our freedoms, which we see that many of them do not. In the past 8 years, when they gained both the House, the House and the Senate, they continued with pushing through stupid, tyrannical type of laws to oppress the people. And this is this is when the people, for the most part, we saw in the last election, they said, enough, this globalist crap, they don't want it. But basically, it always, every so often, will rear its head. We're truly living in a time where we're actually seeing it in your face. We saw Europe with the EU being voted out because the people there said they didn't want to lose their sovereignty, their identity, and they didn't want globalism. And the same thing was happening here.
One of the reasons globalism keeps raising the head, and I hate to say it, is because they keep supporting Zionism. See, Zionism is the political entity that works also with the left, and mostly all with the left. And the problem with that is every time you clean up the left, you still got the Zionism problem, and the right still has to deal with the Zionists because of the military tie-ins and then Israel's tie-ins and all that other stuff going on there. Mm-hmm. But the problem is that the Zionists are so global, they're pro-globalist. I mean, they bleed global. They want it really bad. And they have so much control over our currency, over our institutions, over our sporting fields, and over the minds of the people through Hollywood, that it's become very clear that the right one day, if they really want to get serious, they're going to have to start chopping down Zionism, because Zionism is what keeps springing it back again. Because every time they've cleaned it out, you're still trusting this Zionism political entity to take things over or smooth things over, and they're not going to do that. They're still going to continue on yelling and screaming globalism until somebody realizes, okay, you know what, these people are traitors, these people are breaking our laws, and we need to charge them with crimes.
Right. And to clarify, Michael, what are Zionists?
Zionists are basically what the Rockefellers defined them as. I mean, Zionists are those who basically advocated a Jewish state, and they were advocating that, but if you go back before that, they really were a globalist front. They really were people who believed in, world government, welfare systems, things like that. But they really were, advocators of that.
Right.
And that's what drew them to start Israel. Because Israel, it wasn't just them trying to give people an Israelite state, even though they put people there that no one recognized for like hundreds of years. But anyway, it really was a way to formulate a new government, a model government in the Middle East that people could kind of formulate policies through. So it really was a connection to a globalist front.
Okay, and to be fair there, I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong in this, Zionism is to Jews what Nazism is to Germans, which means not all Jews are Zionists, just like not all Germans are Nazis. That's how I try to clarify that. What do you say?
That's correct. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. You got Jews that hate Zionism, totally hate it, because it's an affront to a lot of their traditions. They also don't like it, for the ones that don't like it, because it ties them in politically to nefarious things. And that's another part they don't like about it. The other part is the history. There were Zionists that helped the Nazis. So that's something they also, this is why you got Jews that don't like Zionism. You got Jews that will protest against it. Where you got other Jews that just love Zionism, like people like Wiener and a bunch of other people I can name.
Wiener.
Happen to be some of the most corrupt people in the world.
Yes.
And even other Jews don't even like those guys. You know, so it's kind of telling you, totally that Zionism is not even liked among Jewish people who have real intelligence on what's going on.
Correct. That is correct. And the funny thing is that it's all mixed in there. When we talk about Zionism, they think you're talking about all Jews, and that's simply not so. But they've designed it so that it can be that way, so that you can further persecute them.
Yeah, I mean, they just want people to think that when we talk about Zionism, we're being anti-Semitic, which is stupid.
Correct.
I mean, they want people to they just want to label anybody that tells you anything that's reality. If you tell you about Zionism, they want to say, well, you're just saying that because you don't like Jews. I'm like, you're a moron. What makes you think I don't like Jews because I tell you about a political party called Zionism?
Correct.
Who told you that? It's like, well, MSNBC. I'm like, well, that's why Donald said, our president said very fake news. He renamed it, and I agree with him.
Me too.
Totally.
Yeah, so do I.
I can always point to my commander-in-chief and go, well, every time you want to paint the media now, my commander-in-chief says you're fake.
Yeah.
So you're fake. He's the elected official. You don't gotta listen to me. Well, let's listen to the president. You're fake. I don't need to answer that. Let me tell you about Zionism. That's how I'm going to quote that,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
We've been vindicated.
We've
totally been vindicated.
It's like you and I, we both hate Nazism. We can't stand it. Doesn't mean we dislike Germans. You see, one is not, when we talk about one particular thing, it doesn't spread over to a group of people. You see that? And the sickos and the knuckleheads want you to equate all of that together. That's why they come out with the name calling.
Right, they just want to sit there and not listen to the truth because they can't handle it, because they're probably either being paid by organizations that represent traitorous beliefs in our country, or their mommy and daddy does, or something. They got some tie in it. They're in bed with it in some way. They got some connection to it, And in that connection is where they get off slandering people, It's funny because I saw this reporter one time, right? I don't know if you saw the events in the last rally with Trump. It was so cool, by the way, because the cops kept all the protesters 1 mile out from the crew.
Oh, I saw that. I saw that.
Beautiful, man. Like it was peaceful. It was such a beautiful rally, and it was beautiful. And these guys were restricted. The cops surrounded them. They had their cop cars, and they did a circle front, a counterclockwise guard.
Yeah.
They surrounded them, man, and it was cool. And then they could only be in this circle, and they were allowed to hold their signs and be morons. And one guy walked over to interview him, and was going to talk to this girl, and she says, well, the rhetoric, come on, I said, well, excuse me, don't say rhetoric, because when you're saying rhetoric or rant, okay, our president is an elected official, therefore what he says is not rhetoric. I would prefer if you use testimony or speech or what he said, but please don't say rhetoric or rant, because that's a slander. You're 16 and you can't produce any evidence. to say that this elected official is ranting. Go ahead now. they had to correct these millennials over and over again. And then this is who they're interviewing, millennials. This is who's, kids, by the way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when they're speaking, we allow them to speak, and the first thing that comes out is a slander. And then we got to stop them. Go, well, wait a minute. Don't say he's ranting, because that's not ranting, okay? He's making a speech. He's telling us what his policy is. That's not ranting, okay? You can't sit there and say he's ranting, okay? Because that's demeaning him, that's downgrading him, that's watering him down, and that's not fair. And that's also, he's an authority over you. So that's really not smart,
right?
So it's like, that's kind of what it's done too with the left, is that everyone's seeing the fact you can't even talk to these people because the hatred is so thick.
Yeah, you can't.
And it's so obvious now.
Yeah, there's no exchange of ideas and civil debate or even civil conversation. Even in the school system, that's where these kids get it from. Their own teachers tell them all of this nonsense. I've gotten to some heated debates with guidance counselors who are supposed to be teaching, kids how to function in society. But how functional is a kid going to be when you're constantly telling him the deck is stacked against him because of his skin complexion or his cultural background? Not much.
It's demeaning him. It's totally demeaning him. It's really putting a lot of issues on him that he or she is going to have to deal with unnecessarily. Every time they fail, they're going to think it's because I'm black or Spanish or this or that. Or they're always going to come up with whatever left-wing propaganda excuse, but they not really see what's actually going on there.
Correct.
And that's what's sad about it, because there's so many people that just throw their hands up and become jerks simply because they feel like they're being given a rotten deal because they're a certain way. And it's not even true. Like, every time I hear, like the recent thing with Beyonce, with the Adele thing, Beyonce accused Adele of racism, or the Grammys itself of racism, to give it to a white artist. And I was just thinking to myself, you see, that is getting old. Like, when she did it, it's like you could see really no reaction to it, and everyone's just like, yeah, really? Because it's getting old. It's old. It's like it's the same damn excuse over and over again. And the thing is that so many people like black people. Black people's music, culture, everything is on our heads now. There's no problems like that unless they want to make a problem like that. And that's what the media is doing.
Exactly.
They're creating it. They're creating it and feeding it, and too many people keep wanting to eat it. But
yeah, Michael, you see that these are all non-issues that have to be dug up again, because that's the only ace in the hole that they have. They have no ideas. They have no how do you say? They can't sit down and reason with you. They have to take pot shots at your character. And this racism thing is like the boy who cried wolf. It doesn't have any meaning anymore because that's all you hear.
Yeah, it's them wanting a handout. It's like they're not a people that really wants to understand what they really need to do. They just want to continue on the control. So you do got a society in the left wing that does understand that by controlling and manipulating other people, they benefit, and then they just get things handed to them because it's exploited from other people's cultures. And the culture that it's exploited from, they just get a little bit of what's been cultivated because they're still dealing with the same entity that holds it back from them. It's a terrible thing. Dude, you got time for a minute for me to tell you something about what I observed in Chicago like some time ago regarding this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let me tell you what happened here. This was about 1999, I believe, 98 to 99, is that the Republican Party in Chicago is very, very slow, as you well know. It barely has a voice. And right around that time, there was a guy trying to get elected mayor. And this was right after the elections, and so another round of it was going to come up pretty soon. And so this guy was trying to get elected. So what he did was he joined a subsidiary company with the housing authority. And he was going to basically through a charity, he built up $10 million. I should say his party. It was a communist. It was a representatives of businessmen. It was the Chicago Republican Party. They raised up $10 million, okay? And then the objective of this money was to renovate some of the most broken, busted up houses, in Chicago, particularly on the south side. So they targeted black families and basically told them, hey, we're going to fix your house up. We'll fix the radiator, new windows. We're going to fix this up. And they did it. They didn't even, promise it and then not do it. They actually went and did it. So it was a one-year project, and it was finally done, and these apartments were only for those on Section A. So these Section A people at first were just happy because they were like, whoa, this is great. Now let me tell you what happens. The left wing, represented with the female groups or the feminist groups, who were collectively a group of white women, went to the church leaders in those communities. And these were black church leaders. Talked to them. And it's not proven, I have to say that, but a lot of us know they did, but I have to say it's not proven because the court of laws won't get on them, even though there was a scandal, so people can track it. Basically told the church leaders to tell the people who were in those Section A apartments that were renovated to destroy them, to wreck them, to just bash them up, just totally wreck them. Reason being is because it would leave a stain on the plans of what the Republican Party was going to do, and then it would discourage them from wanting to help them. But of course, at the same time, they didn't explain it like that. They explained it as the Republicans is using them to put themselves over, so we need them to destroy themselves, and for doing that, we will help them out, and we will restore it, and we'll get them what they need. So the church groups actually brought these families in and told them to wreck their own home. They do it. Wreck their own home. Thinking they'll get a check and thinking they'll get their pay-ins when it was over. When they were done wrecking it, they got nothing. And they were told, now live in it.
Wow.
And then they went with the media and started filming all the damage and then pointed it at the right wing, saying that this was the right wing's result of their help. Wow. And then the right wing had to respond with a documentary on PBS to refute back what actually happened.
PBS of all places.
It was a Channel 11 deal. This was in Chicago. That's where it's at. But the funny thing was, this is the mentality that I'm trying to expose here. And I've seen this. This is just one example I've had to deal with, and this is their mentality. They were given something that was a self-improvement to their community, and they allowed their own representatives to tell them to do something that was something that they wouldn't even do themselves.
Wow.
It was like, what the hell are you guys doing? And you should see how the way they destroyed it. I mean, the carpets were brand new, so they pissed on them. The windows were new, so they shot them out with bullets.
Wow.
It was like they did the most disgusting things they possibly could do, just to crap on on the intentions of the Republicans. And it's funny because these white women I mentioned, they are not open-minded. We're for people. They're actually very, very racist. They're Hillary Clinton type women.
But Michael, that's how they operate. Women's by virtue. We're not talking about your typical local women's libber who has custard pudding for brains and subscribes to this fallacy. We're talking about the leaders who have an evil agenda, and they need to recruit useful idiots, which is based on your story there. That's what they did. And the useful idiots did exactly what they were told.
Yeah, it was just disgusting. It was totally disgusting. And I really felt bad for the guys that were working hard and who were the Republicans at the time. And they left. They left right after. They totally left. Like, when that happened, they left. And the reason why they left was because they really felt that they were not worth helping. That was what they told me, and that's what they told other people.
That's amazing.
They felt hurt. Like, I remember one of them telling me, we came down there to help them, and they spit it in our face. and help out the people that had never done anything for them. Didn't even lift a finger to get them new radiators or anything, and they went and helped them and to destroy the things that we spent all this money on giving them. And he told me they're not worth helping. He even warned me, he even told me, you need to get the hell out of that city.
Yeah.
As soon as you possibly can.
And everything you're saying about Chicago, Michael, is 100% accurate, because my sister-in-law went up there to a university to get her master's degree, and even she said that Chicago is a bad it's a bad city. It's there are certain places you cannot go at all. It's very corrupt. And then you have the creepy ballerina Rahm Emanuel, that freakazoid. I think that guy. I think that guy is demon possessed. Every time I look at him, he looks like something out of the pits of hell. And
oh man, we've always had guys like him. You're right though, but we had a guy like Daly before him.
Right.
That guy was so, oh my God. But I think Emmanuel was trying to break his records. So, totally zombie.
Yeah. A real sick guy. Very sick. And New York City, believe it or not, is following suit. I mean, it's basically almost the same thing, but not as bad. It's like there's an evil demonic entity hovering over that city, because there's so much evil and corruption there, And again, New York City doesn't fall that far behind either, but it's amazing. I mean, and it's the politicians that come out of there. Basically, they destroy the country. In the last 8 years, basically, all of them came from that area.
Well, I think what balances out in New York City is that you guys have a strong right-wing presence there. You guys have had strong Republican leaders that were able to balance out a lot of the Democratic effects. So I think that's what you have with New York City, is that there's a good balancing effect going on there. You got the bad side, and then you got a side that you can work with. And that's what helps New York City. Especially when you have so many people. I mean, you guys got 12 million people there in county.
About 12 million.
You guys are huge. So I had to be up in New York State, so I know you guys are massively huge.
And it's interesting, Michael. It's interesting because it's mostly the freakazoids are mostly in the city. Once you go upstate, it's totally different.
Oh, upstate was incredible. I mean, it was quiet. Yeah, we were around the farmlands and stuff like that, and you got the Canadians over there, and then I saw a lot of interactions with that. And there were sections that were occultic, I can tell you that. I mean, there's a strong occult presence in New York State.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
They're everywhere. I remember we went through this one witchcraft town. I even knew it was a witchcraft town. Like, I'm not even eating here. Like, they already knew we were here.
Yeah.
Like,
it's amazing.
Yeah, let's get the gas and get out. But other than that, I mean, it went pretty well. I mean, there were sections where you can be peace, and then there are sections that weren't. I remember my wife was telling me one time we were at Niagara Falls, and she saw an eyeball in the inside Niagara Falls, an eyeball, and because the mafia wasn't that far away, so we were like,
That's funny. That's wild. Yeah, and also, Michael, which state is pretty much a waste. Also, unfortunately, is Washington State. They're.
Been there. Yeah, I've been there. Yeah, it's not any better either. It was up in Seattle, and a place. Oh God, Spokane, another place. Forget it, man. The ignorance is not good. I mean, you would think they were more open-minded. I mean, there's a lot of things I have heard, but it's like the people there are two ways. You got some that are just very kind, they're gentle, very friendly and open, and then you got others that are so closed off and bigoted and so left-wing to a fault.
Yeah.
Like, it's unbelievable. The hipster culture really dominates much within the Washington area.
That is correct, yeah. And pot is legal, so you smell whiffs of it all over the city.
It's sections of it. But you're still right, but it's sections of it. Well, now they're trying to make it, they're trying to force all the counties to comply. But yeah, there is sections of it where you go there. You can go to this dispensaries that they have, like they were doing in LA.
Mm-hmm.
So same thing there, yeah. But I don't fault it so much as the pot, other than the way the hipsters do this whole culture thing.
Correct.
It's like that's what pisses me off about it. It's like they're just anti-male, anti-God, anti-this. They want to blow pot in your face. Will tell you you're a horrible person for being born a male. And it's like, get the hell! Oh my God!
Yeah, that's lunacy.
The attitudes were just terrible. Yeah, I mean, they were not open-minded at all. I just remember thinking to myself, Seattle sucks.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like,
unfortunately.
Get the hell out of here.
Yeah. Which is is no reflection on the decent people, we have to say, because you do have a lot of wonderful, kind people.
Definitely. I'm not talking about decent people in Seattle, but I'm talking about, they know who I'm talking about.
The system itself, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And California at one time was, back in the 50s and 60s, was actually a decent state. Now it's gone off the freak fringe to the point where you can even, if you have a fireplace, burn a log. You'll get slapped with a fine for polluting the environment.
Yeah, I mean, they let Hollywood run it. That's the problem. They didn't check Hollywood. When Hollywood went corporate, they didn't check them. They didn't stop them. They didn't want to see the warning signs. So there you go. When you let the Terminator become governor.
Yeah, but you know something, Michael? When Arnold became the governor, he did start out with some great conservative policies, but unfortunately, he made a complete 180 and became an ultra-liberal. Apparently, his wife had an influence on him because she, from the Kennedy clan, they're ultra-libs. So a lot of his policies, with the taxing and everything, it even came to a point where he had to offer work furloughs because the state could no longer afford to pay the public works people.
Well, he did it to himself, and you're right, he did start out pretty good for a while. But he just totally turned. He turned on the people, and he wanted to push all this gay stuff, and he wanted to push all these higher taxes, and he wanted to push a lot of liberal activity, and he just wanted to legalize all kinds of drugs, not have any real restrictions, age requirements, or any kind of other stuff we should probably think about. And then nothing like that. I mean, he went kind of nutty, and then he was making strange 911 calls that he denies. I don't know what the hell was going on in his home at the time. And probably getting demonically attacked, probably. And he just was, he was going nuts, man. And then when the fire started, that's what ruined him.
Yeah.
That's what depleted the budget in California.
Yeah.
He did have a lot of money coming in, but when he passed the gay laws, and then the next day there was 4,000 wildfires, and he didn't want to take that as a sign from God.
Yeah.
Well, then God said, well, here's 10,000 more, and now you have no more money. Now have some fun.
That's when the work furloughs were instituted. The work furloughs, right around that time. And it's interesting because he was talking about issues that you and I and most normal people do not see as issues. And one of them is an environmental issue. The environmental issue is a trumped-up issue, you know that. Now, people listening to this would say, oh, so you're for polluting the environment. Wrong. No, we're not. What they're talking about is controlling climate, and only God can control the climate. Climate constantly changes. 1 minute is 50 degrees, next minute is 52. It fluctuates. So how are you going to control the climate? See, these are non-issues they throw at you, and then they couple them with fear.
Right, there is no such thing as global warming and things like that. I was in Alaska, by the way. You want to know where I was at? I was on the northern hemisphere one time.
Wow.
Where I was at, you could tell if the Earth was flat, and by the way, it ain't. You could pretty much see the edge of the world. And I was right there, right over the glacier, what they call White Thunder, right there. So while looking at that, I could just tell you, man, everything is what it is. It is in control. I didn't see any kind of radiation field going on. There wasn't any melting going on. There wasn't anything like that going on at all. And even right in front of the glacier, I had a guide with me, and she was telling me how that just doesn't go on. You know, that it has a normal routine of how it melts. There isn't any outside thing going on there.
Right.
You know? So I was at the heart of what they're talking about. And believe me, they're making it up.
And you know something?
That stuff ain't even going on.
That's right. And you know something, Michael? Several years ago, back, I think it was in 2013, the government paid scientists to go right around the North Pole area to prove that global warming exists. So when they went up there, not only did it prove that it does not exist, they got stuck up there, and it was up to the Chinese to send helicopters in and try to save them, pull them out of the ship that was stuck on the ice glaciers. And they wouldn't go...
I already know where they went,
Yeah, and the ship was... Yeah, they couldn't go outside to do anything because guess who was waiting for them outside? Polar bears.
I bet.
The polar bears were waiting for them to eat them.
You know, it's not just polar bears you deal with. You have to deal with whales, man.
Yeah, the killer whales, yeah. The orcas.
Yeah, whales. We had to literally, the boat we were on, we had to literally pass them as close as you don't really want to be.
Which whales were those, Michael?
We saw them literally jump up and slam down in the water, and you could feel the impact.
These are the sperm whales?
I'm sorry, say again?
These are the sperm whales?
They were, yes.
They're not the killer whales, though, right? Not those.
No, not killer whales. You're right. She did call them sperm whales.
Okay.
That is correct.
Yeah, because killer whales, they call them...
They're medium-sized whales.
Uh-huh.
They're not the massive whales, but big enough to where they could do some damage if they wanted to. We were just happy that they were in a friendly mood, so they basically put on a show and left us alone.
Oh, okay.
And so when we got to the glacier area, there is a side route that goes around the glacier, and that's where the ice, snow, and like you said, you got a polar bear population there. But you also got the whaling going on there. You got the seals, and the seals make up most of the population because they were everywhere, man. Like they were scattered like a lost tribe, like hundreds of them.
Wow.
And I remember they were just everywhere, man. And it's just an incredible place, and right there is the heart of the magnetic field. You can really feel it. And what they call the northern lights, it's really what it is. It's plasma energy, because these are the points of the universe, or the points of our orbits. So it's like the energies that flow over, you can literally catch and see them. Oh. And then that's where those lights come out. And that was incredible, man. And I got to view that on the boat. And it was just amazing when we were going through it.
Wow.
And so it is. You really find out a lot of reality there, and it was just a very spiritual place, man. Like it is really, spiritual, man. Like you really get almost addicted to wanting to stay there.
It's amazing. And Michael, did a thought cross your mind that also that these are the areas where all those clandestine bases are at, and where the alien phenomenon takes place and things like that?
Yes, where I was at, there was a town that was, I believe it was 15 miles over, which is the nearest town to that area, and that town also has one of the highest degrees of reported alien abductions in the world.
Wow.
In the world. So that activity is very strong there. And there's a lot of bad blood because of it. Like there are towns in Alaska that you really don't want to hang out at. And I was at one of them. And, the locals aren't very friendly. And they'll sell you some stuff, but they don't even want you hanging out there. And some towns are the opposite. Some towns were friendly, and some towns were not. And the ones that weren't really had some kind of stuff going on there. There's occult activity going on there. And there was some weird stuff going on with the demonic activity. Also, where I was at was about 20 miles over the northern mountain where HARP is at. So I was able to, I didn't go near it because it's government controlled, so I didn't feel like getting my head blown off. But HARP is, so HARP was right over there though. There is a mountain you can go on that is safe, and you can overlook it and see the rods. And so it's right there. And so, yeah, they generate a weather modification. They oscillate the energy right at the moments when there's a lot of plasma energy going on in the atmosphere.
Well, that's fascinating. Fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very tripped out area, man. Real tripped out.
Which gives a lot of credence to your research that you've done, because you produced a lot of videos talking about these type of things. And did you ever, when you were out there, take any video footage? Were you allowed to do that?
I took some of Alaska. Not a whole lot of footage in terms of that, because of the fact you're doing a lot of field work, and even at the same time, there's just places you can't even film at. But even places that you could film at, So there was just a lot of people I went with.
Okay.
They filmed. Mm-hmm. So their knowledge is already there. I didn't have the money for that. I was always with other groups that would say, hey, we're going here, or we're going there, or we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. If you want to contribute for your own end, you can, pop in with us, and then bam, you're with the group. So, and that's how I ended up in Alaska, but I did manage to film a lot about Alaska. I just haven't put that footage up yet.
Okay. And also, Michael, one of the movies that made your channel very popular was Aliens Come From Hell. Do you plan to do something else, like another major film documentary based on?
Yeah, but I'm trying to do it outside of YouTube. I don't want that problem no more.
That's a very good idea.
That's why it's taking so long. Because the fact is that I got to go back and do the legwork again, and there's like a lot more work I have to do. I got to get past that work before I'm able to do that again. If I go back and do that again, believe me, it's not going up on YouTube.
Good.
Because that whole Google system is so damn corrupt, and you can't even do anything about it because they're a bunch of little babies who want to hide behind a desk and act like, I don't know what you're talking about.
You're right.
And I'm tired of dealing with kids. So
yeah.
In my opinion, when I get that together again for another documentary like that, it's not going up on YouTube.
Oh, great! That's a wonderful thing, and you can add it to your book list and products and stuff like that for your ministry. I think that's much better if you sell it in DVD format, or
that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, much better. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the only way I can do it, because I try to do it in a fair public. Hey, everybody, come watch it. And that's the crap I got. So I can't repeat that again. So.
Yeah, no. And let me tell you, that video is still top of the line till this day. It's just a shame the way they attacked the creator, which is you. It's just not right. And
it's some stupid crap too. I mean, it's like, we're a heavy metal band, and this whole. I was like thinking, these people are so stupid, and it's so obvious in what they do.
Yeah.
It's funny they still deny it, even though I got the legal document right here. I even showed it on the video. It's just like right there, man. You can't even read it. You gotta be kidding. You're still denying it. What a moron.
Yeah.
I take your ass to court, you're definitely not gonna be denying it. It's funny because all of this over a heavy metal band is just unbelievable to me, and it's just like, you gotta be kidding me. Moving from Denmark, I've never even been to Denmark. It's a country I've not been to.
Yeah, I don't think you would be interested in going to Denmark anyway. They have a heck of a lot of problems.
Denmark. I mean, Denmark's cool if you're Danish. I mean, Denmark's great. I mean, I'm not American. I'm a Spanish American at that. So I don't even know what the hell I'm doing here, man.
Well, that's a socialist country too, by the way, Michael. That's very socialist over there. So I believe they tax you 90% of your salary. So.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, that's one of the countries that does that.
We're gonna skip the trip. Okay.
Yeah. So, I noticed another interesting thing happening. A lot of alternate video sites are popping up now that are slowly breaking away from YouTube. Have you been aware of that?
Yeah, I mean, I've had some information on that. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
They're realizing that, look, I mean, even I'm thinking about doing that, trying to find other ways. I had a friend of mine, Natalie, did it for me.
You've spoken about that.
Me. No, he asked me permission actually. He asked me beforehand, but when I saw it, he gave me the idea to go. Yeah, eventually you're gonna have to do that. Eventually, you're gonna have to try to go on other avenues. So
other platforms.
Because you don't want to just stay in one area, especially if they're going to be, doing stuff and things like that. So.
Yeah. Well, Michael, I want to thank you. Our discussions always go from the main topic and it veers into other fun areas, and
it does that,
because you're such a knowledgeable guy, and between you and I don't get to talk too much to intelligent people. Most people are. I mean, I shouldn't say this, but they're just not into. They don't understand what's happening in the world around them at all. They don't get it. And when we talk about these things, or I try to talk to people about certain things, they look at me like I'm from Mars. So, it's really interesting. So we're gonna do this again. I have some other topics I want to talk to you about, and also about some of your projects that are very intriguing, and that I have questions also on. So we're going to do that. And also, as I said before, I have some things I'll be sending you, so I want you to be on the lookout for that. I'm going to text you and let you know what they are. And again, you're really you're like the Incredible Hulk of Christian content, because you're pumping it out every day, and I'm subscribed to you, so I always hear my phone buzzing, and I say, "Oh, Michael has another video up. Gotta watch it."
Cool, that's cool, man. Well, God bless you, man. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, and God bless you too, Michael, because I make sure I let it go viral. I send it out to all of my people on my phone, the links, the Facebook. The only reason why I personally do not like Facebook that much, but the reason why I have it is for that purpose, to spread the gospel, spread. And it's mostly content that you put out. I spread it out. I tweet it. I do all of that. That's
the soldier's work, man.
Yeah.
Never done.
Yeah. Okay, Michael, so I'm going to let you know when this goes up, and we'll do this again.
You too, man. God bless you, brother. I'll see you later.
Okay, God bless you too, Michael. Bye-bye. Hey everyone, this is Leon Cruz for the Intense Apex Alpha Male blog, podcast, and website. And I want to introduce you to one of our new sponsors called Red Monkey, which is a nootropic supplement. Red Monkey is one of many of the class of supplements known as red supplements. So out of that category, I'd like to talk to you about a specific one, which is the one I just mentioned, Red Monkey. What exactly is Red Monkey? Red Monkey is a potent blend of nootropics and cognitive enhanced ingredients that work together to increase your mood and kill social anxiety. The several potent nootropics in Red Monkey specifically work by targeting and improving the efficiency of neurotransmitters in the brain. The end result is improved cognitive function, memory, creativity, and motivation, and decreased anxiety and stress. Now, some of the ingredients in Red Monkey consist of N-acetyl-L-creatine, which is a nootropic, improves irritability and anxiety levels. Bokpa maneri, which boosts memory, cognitive ability, and brain health. 5-HTP, which is also another nootropic, which promotes relaxation, boosts mood, and alleviates stress, as well as enhances focus, reduces anxiety and depression. It also contains L-theanine, which increases dopamine levels and improves mood, boosts focus, memory, and brain health, and reduces stress and anxiety. And another nootropic ingredient, Rhodea rosa, reduces fatigue, boosts concentration, and alleviates stress. And a main one, which has been getting a lot of media attention, Phenibut. That's Phenibut. The only ingredient in Red Monkey that isn't a nootropic, and this ingredient in particular is what is largely responsible for the amazing relaxation and stress anxiety relieving benefits of Red Monkey. So, If you want to try Red Monkey, go to my website, www.intenseapexalphamale.com, and give it a try. Once you try it, my advice would be to use it at least once every 7 days so that the body does not get accustomed to it, and only use it when you feel fatigued with a cup of coffee on an empty stomach in the morning. And depending on the size of the person, start out with 2 capsules in the morning and again 2 capsules at lunchtime. If you feel no effect, the following week I would advise you to try 4 capsules in the morning on an empty stomach with coffee, and then wait about an hour before you have breakfast, and then at noon you take the other 4. Also keep in mind, do not exceed 8 capsules in one particular day. Okay, so once you do that, make sure you're doing it on a day you need it the most, where you're going to focus on your training, working out, or you have some big projects you're working on. This product will help you stay focused, will take away the sleepiness, and keep you actually being creative. Your mind will begin to focus and increase your cognitive skills and creativity. So once again, if you want to try out Red Monkey, which is one of our new sponsors, I personally use it. I use 4 capsules in the morning and 4 capsules in the afternoon. If you want to try it, go to www.intenseapexalphamale.com and let me know what you think. Thank you, and God bless you.